Hello everybody. We shall start the new session today with your Vice President, PM of India, Council of Ministers and Attorney General. We shall cover the Vice President of India, the Vice President of India, the Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister, and we shall also discuss Council of Ministers and Attorney General of India. Attorney General of India. We shall discuss them. Alright. So, Vice President of India. We consider Vice President of India in the table of precedence. He holds second rank. He holds second rank in the table of precedence. And his office is modeled upon the office of the Vice President of the United States of America. The need for Vice President in India or in a republic is that most importantly the need is that when there is a vacancy in the office of the highest constitutional office, like the highest constitutional office, that is the President of India, then Vice President will occupy the office of the Vice President. I think that is the most important reason why we have a Vice President, and he is the second in rank, and his his importance is felt when there is a vacancy in the office of the President. So, though not an essential or active constitutional office in Indian political system, but yet a highly dignified office occupying a second position to second highest constitutional position in the India. Okay. Then we shall discuss the qualifications. Let us see. First we shall discuss the qualification, then we shall come to the election. Qualifications of the Vice President, first we have to discuss. The Vice President of India's office requires to be in the following qualifications. In order to become the Vice President of India, one should have the following qualifications, like he should be a citizen of India, number 2, it should be above of 35 years or above. Number 3, should have the qualifications, to become a member of Rajya Sabha in the pattern of American President, Vice President. This is provided. Number 4, he will not hold any office of profit. These are the 4 basic qualifications provided in the Constitution, provided for the office of the Vice President. That is, you can say, the principal article that deals with Vice President of India is 63. 63 says that there shall be a Vice President of India. That means he is a must. And with regards to the qualifications of the Indian Constitution, that is mentioned. Now we shall come to that is election of the Vice President. Election of the Vice President of India. Okay. Okay, and if you consider the qualification, it is mentioned in Article 66 indirectly. Okay, that is the things. Then election of the Vice President. Article 66 contains the qualification of the Vice President. Then election process. Election process is also mentioned in Article 66. What does it say? That the VP shall be elected by the members of Electoral College consisting of of both houses, consisting of members of both houses of Parliament. In accordance with the proportional representation by means of single transferable vote system, and that is to be done in secret ballot. So that is 66, Article 66 Clause 1 states that. And with regards to qualification, it will be 66.3. So this is the system of qualification. And do you find any difference between the Electoral College of the President and Electoral College of that of the Vice President? What are the difference? Do you identify the difference? What is the difference between the Electoral College of the VP and that of the President? See, first of all, the difference is that here all members, but in case of President only elected members. President and VP, all members, including all members of Parliament. I mean both elected and nominated. There are two kinds of members in Parliament. So all of them participate in the election of the VP, whereas in the case of president, only elected members do participate. Number 2, MLAs participate. MLAs of state and union territories participates. Whereas no such provision. It is a basic difference between the electoral college of the president and electoral college of the vice president, and it is bigger, much bigger. President's electoral college is much bigger in size than that of the president, than of the vice president. Whatever may be, but the vice president is elected by an electoral college. That is the major aspect, by an electoral college, and that electoral college are consisting of members of both houses of parliament, and that is single transferable vote, proportional representation by means of single transferable vote in secret ballot. And remember, it is contained in 66(1). Got it? That is the things back in number of then elections. Okay, and the election is conducted by election to the office of the VP. Office of the VP is conducted by the Election Commission of India. Remember, in 66 clause 2 it is also mentioned that the vice president shall not be a member of parliament or state legislature. If a member of either house or of state legislature be elected vice president, he shall be deemed to have vacated his office in that house on the day on which he enters upon his office as vice president. We shall write it. But first remember, the election is conducted by the Election Commission of India, and there are requirement of 20 electors and 20 proposers as proposers and 20 electors as seconders, and with a security deposit 15,000. It has been increased since 1997. The rationale or the objective of this provision is to avoid undesirable candidates. Undesirable candidates in the race. Got it? That is the things. So, as I told you, in 66, Article 66, Clause 2 requirement, the VP shall not be, just let me say, the VP shall not be a member of either House of Parliament or of a House of any state legislature or union territories, union legislature of the union territory. It's not mentioned, but that is there. if any member is elected, if any member is elected as VP, considered to have vacated his seat in that house on the date on which he or she enters upon his office as VP. That is a condition. That is a condition also. And it is called the election of the president. That shall be a member, and on election, if the member is discontinues as a member, and he will lose his seat automatically on the day on which he or she enters upon the office as VP of India. Okay, so that is a good thing, all about elections. And the mechanism or technicalities of election is the prerogative of the authority of the Election Commission of India, and Vice President's Election Act are there, so it is regulated under. Okay, that is the things. So okay, okay, so it is regulated under, the election is regulated under the election is regulated under the presidential and vice presidential Act 1952. Remember, that is regulated under the Act 52. That is there, many things are there. So how is the election will be conducted, and how the scrutiny will be made, and how notice will be, nomination of candidates, and the presentation of nomination of candidates. Okay, and the procedure is there, and in 5C of the Act is deposit of the money. So everything is related under Presidential and Vice Presidential Act 1952 to be regulated and enacted by the Parliament. Got it? So this is all about the election of the Vice President of India. He is elected and not appointed, and another thing is his oath. is oath. The Vice President is administered oath. The Vice President is administered oath by the President. Okay? So oath to the Vice President, oath or affirmation. To the VP. It's administered by the President. Or in case the President is absent, the Chief Justice of India will administer, or any judge of the senior-most judge of the Supreme Court, that is the order. Okay. Next, term. Term of the Vice President is mentioned in Article 67(1) or A of the Constitution. 67 you can say, not 1. And the term of the Vice President shall be term of 5 years. 5 years from the date on which he or she enters upon his or her office. But the VP can continue. The VP can continue to hold office until his successor enters. Enters means enters upon his office. Enters upon his office. Article 67. That is also mentioned in Article 67, in 67C. That is mentioned in Article 67C. Okay. Then his salary. Salary is 4 lakh per month. It is charged upon the consolidated fund of he is also entitled to pension. He is also entitled to pension under Vice President Pension Act 1974, and it has been enacted also. VP Pension Act. Pension Act 1997, and it was enacted in Pension Act, VP's Pension Act 1997, and amended in 2008. it is said that the VP will be entitled to 50% of his last term salary as family pension for the remainder of his life. So it is regulated under Vice President's Pension Act 1997. Alright? So he is entitled to pension also. Next, removal. Vice President removal is also mentioned in Article 67. How is the Vice President removed? Vice President is removed by an electoral college, by a resolution. As such, we have to remember no ground for the removal of the VP mentioned in the Constitution. So there is no impeachment as such mentioned in Article 61. The procedure and everything that is mentioned is not found in case of Vice President. There is no prescribed or proper procedure prescribed in the Constitution for the removal of the Vice President, unlike the President of India. So how is the VP removed? The VP shall be removed by a resolution moved in and passed by shall be removed by resolution. Resolution means what? A proposal. Moved in and passed by Rajya. Remember, only Rajya Sabha can initiate the process of removal of Vice President, not the Lok Sabha, obviously. And it's mentioned after a 14 days notice has been given of the intention to move the resolution. The Vice President would be served with a 14 days advance notice regarding his removal. Okay, then the Lok Sabha must agree to such a resolution. Agreed by it, must support it. It means we can say that the VP can be removed by Parliament only. And that procedure is not a very difficult one, or it's not a lengthy procedure, rather it's a very simple procedure to remove. But we can say that the office of the Vice President is an independent office. because he does not hold office during the pleasure of anybody, even not the president. Hence, we can say that independence of the office is assured by the Constitution of India. Okay, this is the called nomination. No such vice president has been removed so far in India, and that is the things. Next, resignation. The vice president tenders resignation to the president of India. Remember that. Okay, so that is also mentioned in Article 67 that Vice President shall tender resignation to its to the President, not that. Okay. So I told you the condition of the Vice Presidential office is that 2, he should not be a member of Parliament or state legislature, and when a member is elected as the Vice President, he will be deemed to have vacated the office of the Vice President from the day deemed to have vacated his seat from the day or on the day on which the Vice President enters upon his office. He or she enters upon the office as Vice President of India. So there are 2 conditions in Vice President of India. Okay, as I told you, term also. He have a security of tenure. He cannot be removed at the whims and fancies of the executive. He can be removed only after a legislation or resolution moved and then agreed to it by Lok Sabha. Okay. Then we shall come to vacancy. Let us see what is there. Tenure we have discussed. Emoluments we discussed. Oaths or affirmation discussed. Term of office and of removal we discussed. Remember that Vice President can continue in his office even after the expiry of 5 months until his successor enters upon the office. Then vacancy. Vacancy in the office of the VP. First of all, on the expiry of his term, there will be vacancy. His resignation, his removal, his death. And first Vice President to die is Mr. Krishnakant. He was the only Vice President to have died in office. And in case there is an office, there is a vacancy due to the expiry of his term, the VP, the sitting VP can continue. And in case there is a vacancy due to the 3 other reasons, like resignation, removal or death, it is not provided who will act as the Vice President. Okay, so in case of vacancy, it is not provided what is the appropriate course of action. It is not provided. That means there is no provision of acting Vice President of India. It is only provided that elections shall be held within 6 months to fill up the vacancy. is only provided election shall be held within 6 months. Within 6 months there must be an election. The office of the Vice President can fall vacant for a period of 6 months or less than that. But in case of President, we have seen that the office of the President shall not continue without its occupant. The BP will continue his office, but election shall be held and it's not provided. So that is the difference between the vacancy in the office of the President and vacancy in the office of the Vice President. Alright, these are the different grounds on which the PP or on which the Vice President assumes the office. So that is the things. Now, powers and functions of the Vice President of India. I told you that BP doesn't have substantial powers. It is probably the only highest constitutional office which is devoid of any wings of power. Because the makers of the Constitution concentrated all the powers in the executive, especially the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. So although President exercises so many powers, but these powers are in fact exercised by the Council of Ministers, Prime Minister with its head. But in case of BP, it is not even provided what will be its power. Okay. So let us see what are the functions, very limited functions solved by the Vice President of India. Okay. So first of all, he has dual functions. One is 64, Article 64. He is the ex officio chairperson of Council of State. Like in the America, the Vice President is the chairperson of Senate. In India, the Vice President is the ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. In this capacity, he is like the Speaker of Lok Sabha, and he is much respected because of being the Vice President also. So, ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha, like the previous Vice President, the chairperson of Senate. And during his chairmanship or chairpersonship in Rajya Sabha, he or she has equal powers of Speaker of Lok Sabha. A Speaker of Lok Sabha has all the powers and Chairman has the same power. He presides over the House, Rajya Sabha, of the sessions of Rajya Sabha. He allows motions, passes ordinances, Okay, and appoints chairperson. Appointment of various committees. Then he has casting votes. You can see casting vote in 10100 article 100 casting vote पाखापाखि maintain कराइछि. Okay. 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 Casting vote is mentioned in 100 also. They can vote only there is a tie, otherwise not. And apart from that, he performs all the functions. He becomes the chairperson of certain committees also in Parliament, in Rajya Sabha. He has the same responsibilities to shoulder and same powers to exercise and same duties to perform. So that is the capacity of ex-officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. Okay, so you have to write that. Then holds office of the president as acting president. That is Article 64. It is Article 65. Okay. So holds office of the president of India as acting president under Article 65. I told you several times. When there is a vacancy in the office of the president, it is the vice president who called upon to serve as the president. If he is out of India or out of anything, then he may not act. But it's obviously three vice presidents have occupied as 6 vice presidents. Three vice presidents have occupied the office of the acting president of India. So there are 3 vice presidents. One is your, you can say, VB Giri. Okay, VB Giri and H. Mohammad Hidayatullah. Okay, number 3, B.D. Jati. So when vice president becomes the acting president, he enjoys all the rights and privileges enjoyed by the president at that point of time. And another thing, that he cannot remain in the office of the acting president of India for a maximum period of 6 months. So the time limit is given. So within 6 months, there will be election to the office of the president and okay, acting president of India holds office of the president of India. So these are the basic powers these are the basic powers of the 64. Alright, this is the things. Now come to the articles. I have written it, you can mark it. 63, 64, 66 we have already discussed. Okay. Okay, and another thing we have to be noted here, that the same pattern of VP occupying the office of the president is found in USA. In fact, we have been deeply inspired by it. But the difference between the US system and the American system is something different. Okay, the Vice President of India means shall hold office of profit only for a maximum period of 6 months. Within 6 months there shall be elections and new president will enter upon the office. Okay. Okay, I have written it, you can see it. Well, so that is the things, difference between so now look at the list of vice president. Alright, so look at now is the longest serving vice president, longest. So that is written well. Acha, 52 to 62, he was there in 10 years. Zakir Hussain 62 to 69 for 5 years, then he became the president. Yaragi Venkatagiri, also the Prime President of India. G.S. Pathak, 1969 to 74. B.T. Jati, that is there. Justice Hidayatullah, Shankar Dal Sharma, K. Narayanan, Krishnakant, okay. Then is the first Muslim vice president. M. Hidayatullah is the only Chief Justice. Only CJ to have become VP and also to have become VP and also become VP, CJ to have become VP. Only CJ to have become VP and acting Okay, first you can notice that these three will become presidents, these three will not become president. R. Venkataraman. Okay, these people are became best presidents. Okay, K. Narayanan and R. Venkataraman. They became Krishnakant Bharat Singh Shekhawat. That is not mentioned. But they were not. Okay, so these are not. So first three president and the last three has not been presidents, and third is president, fourth is not president. So kindly take a note of this. And Krishnakant was the first president to die in office. Okay, Krishnakant is the, I told you, only president, only BP to die in office. So this is all about your vice president. Now we shall come to Prime Minister of India. Now I shall come to Prime Minister of India. What is your idea about the PM of India? What is his role? What is his function? Whether he's vital or the president is vital? And position of Prime Minister in the Indian political system. If you talk about position of the Prime Minister, you will see that he is in fact the real ruler of the country. Okay, so PM is the head of the government. Is the de facto ruler of the country. He rules the country. Alright. So he is one of the most powerful office, and Ambedkar has compared the office of the Prime Minister with that of the President of India, America. President of America. That means it is awesome. Okay? So, Constitution does not mention about any qualifications. No prescribed qualification. He or she should be a member of okay. Okay, no such kind. So what are the qualification? He or she ask you something. None. Oh my god. Oh my god. ठीक है, whatever, ठीक है. Thanks. हाँ. अब स्किल टेस्ट में रेडी हो तो Vanik କରୁଛନ୍ତି. Vanik admission କରୁଛନ୍ତି. ଆଚ୍ଛା. ମୁଁ କ୍ଲାସ୍ରେ ଅଛି, ମୁଁ ପରେ ସନ୍ଧ୍ୟାରେ କଥା ହେବି. Okay. So should be a member of either house. But one thing here need to be cleared that the Prime Minister, the person or a citizen, I can clearly mention. I should clearly mention it. A citizen a citizen shall be appointed, citizen of India shall be appointed as the Prime Minister, even if he or she is not a member of Parliament at the time of it is provided because Prime Minister should be a people's choice, should be a choice of the average Indians. Hence, if there is no member available within the ruling party or within the largest majority party or not suitable candidate it is present, a person from outside the parliament can be appointed as president or prime minister first, then he will be inducted into the house through either election or nomination within 6 months from the date of appointment. That is a good point to be remembered, because the appointment of the Prime Minister does not require any specific qualifications. A person without any specific qualification can be appointed as a Prime Minister of India, and if he is not a member at the time of appointment, it will not affect. He or she has to get or secure a seat within 6 months from the date of appointment. In this case, he or she shall secure a seat in either house within within 6 months from the date of his or her okay, that is the qualifications. And in case that, next, appointment of the Prime Minister, you can mention it. Okay, appointment of the Prime Minister. Article 75, the PM shall be appointed by the President under his warrant and seal. But appointing the Prime Minister is not a discretion of the President. Rather, he has to appoint He has to appoint the person of the leader of the largest majority party as the Prime Minister. Largest majority party as the Prime Minister. That is the things. But when there is a hung Lok Sabha, in case of hung Lok Sabha, when no party secures majority in the House, in the Lok Sabha, then the President has some discretion to decide the Prime Minister of India. But anyway, in average case, the Prime Minister is the leader of the majority party, and the President has to invite him or her to be appointed as the Prime Minister. Then with regards to the oath or affirmation by the President in that order, by President and Ministers of oath of office. Alright. Oath is administered and is administered by the President, or in his case, in this case, if the President is absent, then the VP or the VP is there, the Chief Justice, so that it will be an order. The Prime Minister reads in his oath that he will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India. He will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India. He will faithfully and conscientiously discharge the duties of his office, and to right all manners of people in accordance with the Constitution and the law, without fear or favor, affection or ill will. That means in his oath of secrecy, the Prime Minister swears that he will not directly or indirectly communicate or reveal to any person any matter that is brought under his consideration and become known to him as Union Minister, except as may be required for the due discharge of his duties as ministers. Okay. Next is term. Term of the Prime Minister is not fixed. He usually continues in office for 5 years, but it's not fixed because he will continue to hold office as long as his party enjoys majority in the Lok Sabha. Okay. And he holds office during the pleasure of the President, you can say. But in fact, the Prime Minister cannot be removed by or dismissed by President on his pleasure, because he will not dismiss, President cannot dismiss the Prime Minister until his party, ruling party, has a majority, has the confidence of the House. So it is said that only pleasure of is used, but it is not really pleasure because Prime Minister cannot be dismissed by the President. However, if the ruling party loses confidence of the Lok Sabha, then the Prime Minister must resign or the President can dismiss him. The salary allowances of the Prime Minister are determined by the Parliament from time to time. He gets salary as in the capacity of an MP, and additionally he gets sumptuary allowances, free accommodation, travelling allowances, medical facilities, travelling facilities and others. And this has been increased by Parliament from time to time. Okay. But remember, there is no fixed salary in the name of the Prime Minister of India. With regards to removal, I told you that you will be removed by the President of India because not that he holds office during the pleasure of the president, but only after Lok Sabha passes a no confidence motion against him, he will resign. So we cannot firmly say that the Prime Minister holds office during the pleasure of the President. We cannot say that. That is the problem. Okay, now we shall come to the powers of the Prime Ministers. Okay, powers. We shall discuss these articles, don't worry. Powers and functions of the President. Let me see, it is written also. We will come back to these articles in Council of Minister positions. Yes. Let us examine all these powers briefly. What is written? The Prime Minister occupies a unique position of prestige and power. His powers and functions are as follows. He recommends the list of Council of Ministers. Recommend currently, and the President has no option but to accept the list. The President cannot drop a name from the list of ministers. The Prime Minister distributes the work to the different ministers. Allocation of portfolios. Allocation of portfolios. And another thing that he reshuffles the ministry periodically. That can be also a point. He presides over the meetings of cabinet. Supervision coordinates the working of various departments, is the kingpin of the ministry. He is the main spokesman of the ministry or the government. He is principal link between, you can say principal link. is a link between Council of Ministers and President. Okay, then he advises the President, that is a principally under Article 78. He advises the President on the issue of making appointments to important office, that is obvious. He advises the President to dissolve the Lok Sabha either on completion of the term or sometimes if it defeats, each party is defeated in no-confidence motion. He plays a leading role in making all policy statements, also the preparation of the annual budget. He is the ex-officio chairperson of some important cabinet committees such as the Appointment Committee, Political Affairs Committee, Economic Affairs Committee, Committee on Employment and Skill Development, Committee Economic Development and Investment. Cabinet committees are solely devoted for decision making. He announces government policies on the floor of the House. He is the chairperson of Planning Commission, that is an old record. So you can say it is Niti Ayoga. And National Development Council, Interested Council, National Disaster Management Authority, National Security Council. We can add National Water Council, Water Resources Council. We can add also Department of Space, Department of Space, Department of Atomic Energy, Department of Atomic Energy. Okay. So that is also a point to be remembered. A National Integration Council, National Integration Council. Okay, these are the bodies. Is the Prime Minister is the chairperson, is the chief architect of foreign policy. He maintains or designs the foreign policy, gives direction to foreign policy of India. These are the powers, basically, if you consider his powers. Prime Minister enjoys the following powers as the head of the Union Council and Minister, as all these things we have discussed. Okay. And yes, is the political head of civil services, is the political head of the civil. Any point you can add. There are different points you can add it to it also. Okay. So these are the things. Now look at some quotations on the Prime Minister of India. It will help you to gauge the stature of Prime Minister in Indian Constitution. Although it is directly referred to the British Prime Minister sometimes, first initially, but it may be applied to the Prime Minister of India. Okay, in a parliamentary system. Okay, but if B.R. Ambedkar, an Indian Prime Minister, says that if any functionary under the Constitution of India is to be compared with the US President, he is the Prime Minister and not the President. Okay, because the President is not exactly the President of the United States of America. It is the Prime Minister who acts like the US President. He is powerful. Then the government is the master of the country and the Prime Minister is the master of the government. HR gives. The Prime Minister is the captain of the ship of the state Monroe. The Prime Minister is the steersman of the steering wheel of the ship of the state Ramsey Moore. Harcourt says that Prime Minister is inter stellas luna minoris, a moon among the lesser stars. He is the moon for which the Council of Ministers revolves. Council of Ministers surrounds. He is rather a sun around which planets revolves. He is the keystone of the Constitution. All roads of the Constitution lead to the Prime Minister. Jennings, Ivor Jennings. He is the pivot. He is the pivot around which the entire government machinery revolves. Lasky. And is also called primus inter pares. Primus inter pares, first among equal. Is also called first among equal. So due to the influence of the Prime Minister, due to the position of Prime Minister and its significant and crucial role played in the success of the government, sometimes parliamentary government is otherwise called prime ministerial government. Okay, sometimes parliamentary government is called prime ministerial government. That is also a point to be remembered. So it's called primus inter pares in political things. Primus inter pares. Okay. So these are the things, and you can analyze these definitions, these quotations in Prime Minister, and can get adequate idea of how to write the role and influence of Prime Minister in a parliamentary democracy. You can add all these things and can expand the meaning of these statements, which will help you write more influentially, more correctly about the position of the Indian Prime Minister. These are all very befitting quotations for the Prime Minister of India, and you can add it and expand this inherent idea of each quotations and can have your answer. Okay. So that is there, and to assist the Prime Minister, there is an office called Prime Minister's Office. It provides secretarial assistance to the PM as it is written as you can see on the screen. The PMO is a staff agency, obviously, because to help the Prime Minister, meant for providing secretarial assistance, crucial advice to the Prime Minister. It came into 1947. PMO enjoyed the status of Department of the Government of India since 1961. It came into prominence during Indira Gandhi regime, and PMO and its occupants sometimes are seen to have played very decisive role in major government decisions. Due to the prominence of, due to the influence of the PMO and the presence of Prime Minister in the office, sometimes it is labeled as or criticized as super cabinet or government of the government because of its influence and its wide-ranging influence on other departments. Okay, it is called cabinet, super cabinet, or government of government sometimes. But this office is a secretariat of the Prime Minister. And now look at the list of the Prime Minister. You can look. You have to have a look also. And these are the long list of Prime Minister. Look at the tenures also. Longest serving Prime Minister. Longest serving Prime Minister, and is the first acting Prime Minister of India. And it's the third, and it's the Gujarat second, then the first woman Prime Minister. Morarji Desai was the Prime Minister 79. We had the first non-Congress Prime Minister. Charan Singh is also a non-Congress Prime Minister. Indira Gandhi failed in 1984. So in total he has maybe 14 years, 15 years he has ruled. Okay. Rajiv Gandhi, 1989. VP Singh is 89 to 90 only for 1 and some year norms. And VP Singh is the first PM to resign after NCM, after no confidence motion. Is defeated. Then Chandrasekhar was there, Vipin Narasimha Rao. During his Prime Minister's historic decisions were made, including Panchayat Raj. Atal Bihari Vajpayee is the first term, 16 May to 1 June. The shortest Prime Minister of India. Shortest term. S.D. Devagowda is the second Prime Minister to resign, and Atal Bihari Vajpayee, that is the third Prime Minister to resign. Atal Bihari is the second Prime Minister to resign, then S.D. Devagowda is the third, then Manmohan Singh, and then Modi is continuing, Narendra Modi. Okay. So that is the things. So you can say, and look at, kindly go through the list of the Prime Minister, examine the response chronological orders. It will help you in identifying the rank and the tenure, the other things. Okay, we shall discuss the Council of Ministers. Let me tell you something. Next class we shall complete the chapter BP, PM, Council of Minister, Attorney General, and discuss questions related to this chapter. In a parliamentary democracy, Council of Minister holds the reign of government. The executive, that is called the Council of Minister, headed by the Prime Minister, is collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. It means that the executive will continue to rule as long as the ruling party enjoys majority in the House. And that is why the study of Council of Ministers, the position of Council of Minister in a parliamentary democracy, it's quite different, quite important. They remain in charge of a different of portfolios. They can hold different portfolios also. The performance and the performance of the ministers define the quality of the government. It's not it's not a fact that only Prime Minister should be should be effective and efficient. Nothing it will not do if only the Prime Minister is effective and efficient. All the Council of Ministers, all the members of the Council of Ministers should be efficient and effective in order to make the government efficient. Hence, the performance of the Prime Minister is not the only factor that decides the success of the government. Rather, the performance of each minister and their responsibility, accountability matter a lot in deciding the success of the government. So, Council of Minister headed by Prime Minister is to aid, and the origin of the Council of Minister is Article 74. Let us see what does Article 74 says exactly. What does Article 74 says? Let us see first. Article 74 says that Article 74 says that Council of Minister, okay, there shall be a Council of Minister with the PM at the head, to aid and advise the President Okay. And such advice tendered by the Council of Ministers shall not be inquired into in any court. Shall not be incurred. Such advice shall not be inquired into any court. 74(1) and 2. There shall be a council of minister with the PM at the head to aid and advise the president. And if the president so wants, he may send back the decision or advice for reconsideration. Or the president may send back the decision of the council of minister to reconsider it, and if and the president shall act in accordance with the advice tendered after such requests. That means president shall act or shall have to do this thing, whatever is directed by the council of minister, whatever is advised by the council of minister after reconsideration, whether it is changed or not doesn't matter. So this principle of aid and advice is the central factor in the parliamentary government. It never turns it into presidential government because of this provision. And by 44th Amendment Act 1978, this advice has been made binding by the president, upon the president after reconsideration. 44th Amendment Act have made substantial changes in the constitution, in executive, in the relationship between president and the executive and the parliament, or so on and so on. So the origin of council of minister is Article 74. Then types of ministers. Types of ministers means cabinet, minister of state, deputy ministers, these are the types of ministers. Usually 3 types of ministers present. Okay, usually 3 types of ministers present. Okay. So these are the types of ministers. बाकी if you talk about the qualification, the term, the security of tenure, the term, salary, oath, removal, all these things are same as the Prime Minister. Okay, let me start with the qualifications. Again, same as Prime Minister that we have written. That means a minister may be a member of either house, and even a person can be appointed as minister if he is not a member of parliament at the time of appointment, but he has to secure a seat within 6 months from the date of appointment. So any member of the house you can write here. Any member, any MP, member of parliament. Okay. But keep in mind the things that I told you. A person can be appointed as Prime Minister even if he is not a member. And another thing, appointment. By President say 75 appointment by President on the advice of the PM. Okay, so appointment is by President on the advice of the Prime Minister, and his advice is binding. And then term not fixed, salary as determined by Parliament. Okay, as determined by the Parliament. Baki term removal, Vicente removal, Minister Manakar removal by President. The Prime Minister can, the President can remove the ministers, and the removal of the minister does not affect the government, but removal of the Prime Minister affects the government. That means the government is dissolved if the Prime Minister is removed. But a minister may be removed, but that does not affect the government. The government will continue. Hence, it is very important to note that Prime Minister is the primus inter pares. Then salary and term removal by the President and reappointment for any term, there is no restriction. Reappointment for any term, जेकोसी टर्म पर्यंत reappointment ही okay, and what others remains, term, qualification, removal, and appointment, salary, oath. Oath is administered by President, and the ministers' oaths are mentioned in the third schedule of the Constitution. Accordingly, they take oath. Okay. So that is the things. So guys, students, we are going to close the class now, and we shall be continuing with the rest part of the things in the next week. I hope you are getting on well with our classes. We are not diminishing quality, even if it is on YouTube. So we are same. We try our level best to maintain quality and quality both in offline and online classes. As you all are not present here, so our interaction is not being carried on. You could have joined and make your constructive comments. Those who are watching this video and facing any problem, they can add their comments or write their comments in the comment section. We will examine it. If possible, we will react to it also. Alright. So that is the things. Thank you very much for watching us and watching Vanik's YouTube classes. Okay. Vanik is paying attention and leaving no stone unturned to help you out in any circumstances. We must praise Vanik, the mega institution. Thank you very much for being with us.